No, we had quite a few people who did register who just said that, some plans changed with some PD and some other scheduled meetings to kick off the year. So we are recording this, and I will send that out to everybody, both those who are with us this morning as well as those who could not join us. Otherwise, for the sake of time, we're going to get cruising along here. So just appreciate people taking the time to learn about the Innovative Leaders Network today. And there's just this concept of what can we do to reimagine what school could be in our own local community. And so my name is Ryan Casey. I work with some other folks at MASSP and Michigan Virtual to bring you this program. Specifically today, we're going to be talking about the whole program, but with a focus on really that year one and what will be our third cohort of the Innovative Leaders program. So we are on our third year of offering this, and watching it grow has been really exciting the last couple of years. But there's my contact information. So if you have any questions about anything you're hearing today, wondering about before you decide whether you want to join or not, or make the commitment, happy to answer those questions or have a one-on-one conversation with you via phone or on Zoom or Google Meet or something like that. So just reach out and let me know. I'd like to start off by, in the chat, just introducing yourself quickly, and then just answering this question is, what is one challenge, question, maybe opportunity, something that you keep noticing, that something that keeps showing up and just won't go away in your school? So what is one challenge, question, or an opportunity that keeps showing up and won't go away? So think about that for a moment. Go ahead and go in the chat. You're going to want to make sure that you have your chat response set to everyone and not just hosts and panelists so others can see it. So go ahead and enter that in there. And why do you think that matters as well? So again, one challenge, question, or opportunity in your school that keeps showing up and won't go away, and why does that matter? Dana responded already. Agency and staying engaged. Student motivation. I think that aligns with engagement probably.
Graduates from a high school area.
Man, I'm seeing a lot of common threads here on engagement. Absolutely. But why does that matter? So think about that, and if others, it seems like we're all aligned on, at least that's one thing that keeps showing up that we're all wondering on. So think about that. Think about what somebody else said, and feel free to dig in here. Take a moment and let's share why we think that is the case, or respond to somebody else's. We can dig in a little bit. So take a minute. Read what someone else is saying, and if it aligns to what you said, feel free to dig in or ask a follow-up question. If there's something different that they notice or mentioned, we can ask why with that as well. So just engage with somebody else's. You can use a little emoji if you want, or you can actually reply to them.
No. There's not a graduation requirement.
See, Brittany added constant stimulation in varying ways. It's difficult to keep them engaged. I would say that almost everyone in here would probably agree. And I think Dana's would align with what Brittany said as well. When you're being pulled in a gazillion different directions. A gazillion's a lot, Dana. That's a lot of directions. Lack of accountability at home. School is not a priority. Absolutely. So we have a lot of reasons for these challenges that keep showing up. And so the question is, um, what can we do about it, right? What are resources, tools, programs that can give us the skills needed to maybe innovate some of the things we are doing to tackle some of these issues? And it's messy work, it's hard work, but we also know it's important work. So I find myself when I'm talking to principals, it's not for lack of wanting to work on those things. It's just hard to figure out how do we get started? How do we get help on that journey? And I think some of the things we're going to talk about today is going to hopefully open your eyes to some of those opportunities. And we can talk about some of the things MASSP is doing and Michigan Virtual is doing to help you with that. And so I appreciate you taking the time to add in the chat. We'll do that a couple more times along the way here today. We're going to explore kind of why is it important to innovate and reinvent how we are doing school. We're going to analyze what the ILN actually does to support the need for that change, and hopefully identify some insights from what we were talking about today, just like we did, to apply to our own local school community, see how maybe this could help. So kind of have our time together broken into 4 segments. We're going to talk about why change is important. We're going to go inside the ILN and look at kind of the program structure, all of the important dates. We're going to hear from a leader who just joined us this last year for our second cohort, as well as talk about specifically next steps, what 2026-27 school year looks like as part of the ILN program. So this idea of why change. So I'm going to put 4 statements up on the slide here, and I'm guessing that everybody can relate to one of these 4. And I'm going to have you think about each one of these for a second. We know what needs to change, but aren't sure how. We have lots of ideas, but struggle with the implementation part. We have pockets of innovation, but not system-wide impact. And we are trying to balance innovation with competing priorities. So I'm guessing most people would fall into one of those 4 kind of statements. And so I'd like you to think about those 4. Pick one that resonates with you, that's most true in your school right now. And then back in the chat, go ahead and identify, just say number 1, 2, 3, 4, give me the number. And also respond, why is that difficult? Why or how is that impacting student, staff, or maybe the learning? What questions are you still trying to answer? So a lot of us talked about student engagement. So maybe you've tried to tackle that, but you're not sure how. You have some people that are doing a good job with it, but it's not building wide, dealing with that engagement issue maybe. So a few have responded 3 and 4. Brittany brought up a good point. When you have lots of ideas, sometime that can create mixed messaging, right? You have competing priorities, and then people get frustrated. What's that kind of old saying what the veteran teachers sometimes would say, right? Like, this too shall pass, right? Like, oh, here's just another, here's another, here's another idea. We'll see how long this one lasts. So most people are falling in 2, 3, and 4 so far. Yep. Frank mentioned, how do you keep these going with, right, other priorities? The amount of support it takes to make innovation take place. Absolutely. So some other topics that we will explore in this program, I've got a couple of quotes from some different authors that I'm going to put up on the screen here. So one is Michael Horn. Um, he has this book that's called From Reopen to Reinvent, and it came out during the pandemic or right after the pandemic. So you would probably think, and I asked the people who have done this book study that's part of this program, like, hey, is this kind of an outdated book, do you think? Because it's, man, it's 5, 6 years now, right? We are, out of the pandemic. But I think a lot of the arguments that he makes in that book, I think are still very relevant today, especially if you think about how many things did we adapt during the pandemic? And then as soon as we went back to in-person traditional instruction, a few things changed, but a majority of things went back to status quo the way they were, right? And so he kind of challenges why that happens. And so here's a quote from him: says, "The future of learning isn't about reopening schools as they were. It's about reinventing them for what works best for students." And maybe that helps with that student engagement piece that we all identified. Another author that is really popular in the AI space, Ethan Mollick, says, "We're not being replaced by AI. We're being invited to work with it. The challenge is figuring out how." I know a lot of you are dealing with, the concept of AI in the classroom, and what does that look like? Another author that we explore, Will Richardson. What if we didn't start with content, curriculum, or compliance, but with a commitment to real, deep learning? And so these are questions and ideas that we discuss a lot in this program. And it really helps reinforce the fact that this program was designed for leaders who want to work together to rethink what school can be, what instruction can look like, best practices, and you get to do it as part of an actual cohort. Learning from one another, exploring different concepts together, and with your peers from all across the state. And so, to talk a little bit about the program, kind of give you the nuts and bolts under the hood, it started as a 2-year leadership experience. Just as of last week, I've got to update my slides now. We actually are extending it into a 3-year program for those who want to go into a third year. But essentially, we are trying to equip leaders, principals, assistant principals with the skills needed to innovate in a systematic way. So we know it's not just this little pocket or just with this one group. So give you the tools that, although you might start small, you can really expand the influence of this innovation across your entire building. And it takes time to do that, of course. But we're going to blend professional learning, design thinking practices, and experimentation to give you the safe space to tinker, to plan, to practice, and eventually lead this work with your teachers and your students. And so our year one, we call Discover and Learn. So this is where we try to really systematically think about different ways you can innovate, and we talk about best practices. We go and see these practices in real life to see how they work. Then when we move into year two, for those who decide to continue on, this is the lead and transform phase where you actually start doing the action research and begin the implementation process to make that innovative change happen in your school, which would then lead to eventually a third year for those who, again, continue on still to be able to iterate and evolve what that innovation looks like. And so there's a lot of supports that go along in this program, from different types of in-person sessions, virtual sessions, coaching, site visits, and then some of these design studios and other events that we're going to mention in just a moment. And so I want to focus for a moment on year one, because that is what you all would be joining should you choose to join. And our goal in the year one, again, this explore and discover phase, is to kind of create the shared understanding of what does it mean to innovate? What can that look like in schools here in Michigan? explore different ideas through the lens of design-based leadership, right? And so, and hopefully along the way, equip you with the resources, the tools, the connections you need to begin thinking about and starting that change. And so we do an in-person kickoff where we kind of talk about what are some things that we're going to be thinking on, exploring, kind of talk about the vision of what does innovation look like in your school? What do you want it to look like? And we do a kickoff event there. I think we have that slated for September 23rd in Lansing. There's a book study again by that author Michael Horn that we will explore usually in the the fall. That helps kind of ground our conversations as we kind of look at different pockets of how innovation can be explored in schools. That's done virtually. We will hold webinars that breaks down different topics. We'll learn from experts, from things on personalized instruction to innovative classroom processes to things like tech and tools and AI. Along the way, throughout the year, we will do school visits or we'll host workshops where we'll bring people in. So there really is this good mix of in-person and virtual learning opportunities. The nice part is we have all of the dates set for all of these things. At the very end, I'll show you the list of dates where you can go to do a deep dive into those. It's really important to know that obviously we want people to attend 100% of the things that we have. I think the more things you can explore, the more equipped you will be to kind of hone in on what innovation project you want to explore in your school. But I'm a former building principal. I get it. Things pop up and you just can't miss certain things. And so sometimes it's hard to get out of your office or leave your building, and that's no problem, right? So I don't think we had a single person that made it to 100% of the things last year because you guys are busy, which is, again, no issue at all. So we have things, we record them, we provide summaries. We have a lot of the events that we hold allow you to bring a colleague or a teammate with you or a group of people with you. I remember as a principal, sometimes it was easier for me to bring a handful of teacher leaders with me. I didn't have to feel as guilty about getting professional learning for just myself if I was bringing others with me. And so, especially when we go on like a school visit, right, a site visit, you want others to be able to see that. You want to bring your counselor with you. You want to bring your principal or your AP, or you want to bring a couple teacher leaders with you to see what this might look like. And so there's a lot of opportunities, although just you are registering for this program, that you can share that learning experience with others as part of the year one explore and discover component. Year two is when you will hone in and identify what we call an innovation change project, right? So what is that thing that you are now, after you explored in year one, you go, oh man, I think we really need this. I want to start working on this project, whether, portrait of a graduate, right? Or modern classroom instructional practices, something. And then you're going to apply those lessons learned and to begin designing it, testing it, and scaling it. And what's really important about this piece is the second bullet down here is the coaching and mentoring component. And I know Tova's on with us on the webinar. She's just logged in as a participant here, but from Michigan Virtual, and Dr. Tova Sheldon does a great job aligning people that participate in year two with an innovation coach to help give you one-on-one support to be able to kind of work with somebody and brainstorm and to actually start making these change projects come to life. And along the way, we will do some group, what we kind of call design studios, where people can share what they're working on, give feedback, especially when we have people working on similar ideas, right? We don't want you to have to do that in silos. Let's get you together and we can have a small group of people. If there's 3 or 4 people working on Portrait of a Graduate work, let's have you work together on some of those at times, right? While still receiving your monthly one-on-one innovation coach, right? Time. So there's still optional site visits for that group to attend and see things. If they were able to maybe not attend all the site visits from year one, they can absolutely still attend those in year two. And then we start having conversations about how do you scale the work that you're doing? And then how do you also be your own chief narrator and kind of tell the story of what this looks like, right? And to be able to share the process and be able to explain this to your community, what you're working on and why you are working on it. To be able to explain to your school board, right? To work with your superintendent to be able to explain that. Um, we do also, this will again go into a year 3. I don't want to get too far into the weeds on that stuff, but basically it allows you to continue that coaching and mentoring model as you iterate and evolve. Because again, by the time you get through this project and this innovation, you might find some things out from implementation that you already need to tweak, right? And so it's just important to have that mindset and be part of that design flow where you're going to always be revisiting things, tweaking things. And so that is kind of a quick snapshot of the ILN program. So I'd love, based on what you heard me say, what you saw on the slide, I would love you to have just maybe pick one of these 2 questions to answer in the chat. What opportunities exist for learning, application, collaboration, or accountability from the ILN program? Or you can kind of fill in the stem here. One aspect of the ILN that seems intentionally designed to support innovation is blank because blank. So pick 1 or 2 to respond to in the chat. I'll be quiet for a moment. So with me today is Frank Marietta, who is the assistant principal at Ludington High School. Frank joined the ILN last year. So he was a year 1 cohort 2 participant, and hopefully we'll see Frank again and some others as we get ready for year 2 of cohort 2. But Frank agreed to take a few minutes out of his busy day with PD and everything else going on to just kind of talk about the program through his lens, right? You can hear me describe it to you all day long, but sometimes we know it's just helpful to hear from somebody who's actually done the work. He can talk about the actual time commitment, kind of what he benefited from. He had a unique situation where both him and the principal at Ludington High School were both able to do this together, which is a really unique opportunity when you have kind of your admin team both participate. So otherwise, Frank, thanks for being here, taking a few minutes. Appreciate you taking the time. And so I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Yeah, can you hear me all right? Just testing my microphone. Good. Okay. No, hey, I think some of my biggest takeaways and benefits from joining ILN, especially, yes, because I did do it with my colleague and head principal, Steve Forsberg, was, one, we got to get away together. 2, it sparked conversation between us. I mean, and I can go more into that, but you guys can kind of do the math and can see how that would work. But I think what's really interesting, some of my takeaways is some of that stuff we've learned long ago, but the idea that it's brought forward as a reminder how much important it is for us to be able to network with other people. And so certainly I've had a chance to build my network with like-minded people where you start to realize, okay, I'm not the only crazy person out here that's feeling this way or thinking this thing. I've got leaders around the state who are affirming me or affirming our people too, and saying, hey, you're not crazy. This is what we're experiencing as well. You're not the only one. And so that's super powerful. And it's not just to stay, in the oh whoa is us, so to speak, and what we're dealing with. It's just more of like, hey, here's some real world solutions. I talked about the site visits on the chat there for a minute. One, you're getting outside of yourself. Innovation doesn't happen in a vacuum. You get to see other schools. Like we went to Forest Hills, we went to Byron Center. Maybe you take a trip up to Lake City and you see the work that they're doing up there to giving kids real world experiences, work-based experiences, building those competencies. And so just the different ways our colleagues around the state are getting innovative and they're doing great things with kids. That's one, it's super encouraging. And then two, although you might not sense the need in your school to do what they're doing, for example, Gone Boarding is at Forest Hills. They also have a class where they create soap and, they sell it. And there's that business dynamic. You may not choose to do those things, but you get to interact with them and they become this resource for you too, with whatever innovation you're trying to do and avoid some of the pitfalls, right? That's the idea of like, hey, what's a blind spot for us? And you can have that safe conversation while you're trying to innovate or you're trying to get your mind around where you need to take your district. So, I can talk more specifically on any of those, but I think the big thing is you build your network. Certainly, you get to problem solve. You get to see how other people are solving some of the same problems. I don't want to sound like a broken record, so I can stop there. But I think that's some of the biggest and most beneficial things that I've experienced. And then it goes on, as you said, there's a year 2. Now it sounds like there's a year 3, which is fantastic to grow. We took our people some of those places as well. It wasn't just Mr. Forsberg and myself. We were able to take some of our staff some of those places and they can see the work as well.
Frank, you talk a little bit just about from a time commitment, right? So I know, for example, sometimes you and Steve were able to come together. That's pretty hard when both principals are out of the building, right? So sometimes you would tag team or whatever, but just right. It's a year long because eventually here in a couple minutes, I'm going to show them the list of dates. And we see a list of dates for the whole year. Sometimes it can be, maybe a little overwhelming, but just from the in-person to virtual and how we spread it out, kind of the good and the bad about that.
Yeah, obviously you love being in person. Some of that might be my personality. And we did get to have a couple of those, and that was fantastic for obvious reasons, as I mentioned. But there's also obviously like we're doing today where we're, have a webinar and we're in on this together. And maybe you're doing a book study. But when it comes to the time, what I would say is you're never going to have time, right? Like I'm going to fit one more thing in. That's how we all feel. What I would say is there's a lot of flexibility with MASSP staff and leaders. They get it. They understand us. They know that, I could get called away for a discipline issue that I got to get on right now because of student safety is first and foremost. And I might have to get off of the webinar for that Wednesday. We would meet, I think, every other Wednesday, I believe is what we met. And correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan. But we would get on for an hour. And then, if life happened, certainly you didn't feel guilty for getting off. I mean, you'd get just a little nugget maybe for the day, or maybe somebody you could go back to and talk to that person. So there's a lot of flexibility there. There was times that Steve was on and I was off because I was dealing with something and he would just kind of bring me up to speed. So we worked together like that. That's where it was nice to have two people go recruit somebody to go with you and do this together. That's exactly how we were able to accomplish it, was because there was two of us. And so the time commitment, we had the one meeting, I think it was in early August or early September, where we got to actually sit physically with each other in Lansing. And then obviously the site visits were in person, but everything else was online, right out of my office. I've talked to people that I met in that network since, even throughout the summer, and it's invaluable that way.
Thanks, Frank. I'm going to also open it up. I wasn't very organized, so I apologize. So we have Dr. Sheldon's was added her. Now you can see her, and not just in the chat, but Dr. Sheldon, can you also talk a little bit about anything maybe that I missed, especially in regard to the innovation coach that gets applied? Maybe even if you want to talk about that for a moment when we get to year two. Obviously, we're kind of focusing on year one, but can you just kind of talk about maybe why it's important to have this kind of this we do this grounding work together, right? I think it's really important that we take the time to explore all these things in year one, because it probably makes things a little more, not just efficient, but just stronger for when we do get a coach lined up and we can hone in on that innovation change project.
Sure, happy to just do a real quick overview. So I would say just maybe two things that are important to know. One is that when we connect individuals to what we call Just Right Fit Leadership Coach for Innovation, we're very intentional and taking your input that says, you know, hey, I'm a high school rural principal, and I want to make sure I have somebody that has lived in my shoes. So who, you know, like we take those pieces in and then make sure that match is a just right fit for you. And that's important because, you know, if I'm being coached by someone who's maybe has a different value set than me, maybe that's going to slow or impede the innovation in some way. So that's one piece of what we do during ILN year two is make sure that you have a coach that's just right. But from a bigger stance, I just want to echo a little bit more of what Frank said about, you know, it's the network, it's the people of the work that really, really matter. And the foundation that happens in that year one is so, so important. And you know, I think we saw in the chat a lot the school visits. You all are hungry for school visits, and I think those things are crucial. We also have those opportunities in year two, and the and part there is if all we are doing is exploring, we are going to end up just as exhausted as we were in the beginning because at some point you have to translate to action. And you want to be able to apply those things in your space, in your context, in a way that makes sense. And so your coach becomes this really important assist, support, thought partner that really takes you in your space in the time that works for you. And takes your ideas into action with you, not for you or not as one more thing, but with you alongside you. So when you see it over at that site visit, but you're like, man, that's not quite my space. How do I actually, what are the moves I need to make as a leader to make that happen? That's where your coach comes in and walks you through those coaching conversations. And that really has been a game changer to get to that kernel and grain size of learning and experience for you. So you go and have your meeting with your staff that you and your coach planned or whatever, you roll out something, and then you've got your coach on the phone that says, how'd that go? And you talk it through in the moments that you need it. So it's not just a just right fit learning or a just right fit coach, but it's just right fit learning for you and support. So is that okay? Anything
that was great. That was perfect. Exactly. Thank you so much. So, yeah. So hopefully you're hearing some things between Frank and Tova that resonate with something that you've wanted to do or that you think would be impactful not only for your own learning, but having this greater influence impact on your entire building, right? And so I think the majority of the people who have done this program for the last couple of years and were able to stick with it, right? They didn't have, life happen in the middle of the school year or professional things take place that kind of derailed them. I think the majority of the feedback we get is that it was incredibly impactful, a great use of their time, even though, as Frank mentioned, sometimes time feels limited. And so that's what we strive for in this program and that's an important part of why I try to have all the dates ahead of time. So you have it on your calendar, so you know the dates that you need to shut your door for an hour and a half, or the days that you at least can catch the first half of the webinar, and you got to bounce for the second half because you've got an admin meeting in central office and just things like that. And so I want to talk a little bit about what this specifically looks like in this next school year. And I'm going to open up this page, but I do have a page on the MASSP website that breaks down kind of an overview of year one, year two, and I've added year three on there now. It kind of breaks down all those different key components that you click on. And it does have the date. So I'm going to stop the slideshow.
Hey,
And
Ryan.
yes,
Yeah, I just wanted to say I love how she said it's not another thing as much as it is something that is a group that comes alongside you. So I just love
absolutely.
how she said it better than I could say it. So well done. But no, that was a great word. And I really hope you guys take that to heart because I was talking about, hey, another thing. And I thought she just did a great job of explaining how it really works there with you feel like people are coming alongside you. And in many ways, I think it'll buy you time.
Absolutely. Thanks, Frank. So I am on that main innovative leaders page. Again, it just does an overview of the 3 years. There are some links if you want to actually register for, year one. Try not to scroll too fast and give people whiplash here. I'm going to click on year one over on the right. Again, discover and learn. It mentions these different key components that we described, the kickoff day that is in person, September 23rd. It talks a little bit about the book study, webinars, site visits, some other opportunities to learn. We intentionally designed all of the webinars to take place in the morning at like 8:30ish. We hear that that is the best time to catch you before all the problems show up at your office door as the day goes on, right? And so we've tried doing things in the afternoon, and we know that, well, then something popped up in the morning that takes you away. And so those are listed there. Most of the webinars are in the morning. And then what's really important in this page down here, it has a breakdown of all of the days that we connect. And again, you go, oh man, there's how many days here? Oh my goodness, right? Some of these are the site visits. Some of the site visits, obviously, those are optional. You get the most bang for your buck the more things you attend, right? We try to offer recaps and summaries of these things when they happen in case you can't be there. I do want to point out one thing on the site visits. I try to find sites kind of on the west side of the state and on the east side of the state. And we also try to go to multiple sites in the same day if possible. So, again, if we're going to get you out of your office, out of your building for the day, we want it to be the most impactful amount of time you can have. So, we'll try to go to a couple places and we try to be mindful of where people are driving from, right? So, knowing to have you drive 3.5 hours for a site visit and then drive back, right? That's pretty tough to do. If I can get you one that's only an hour away from your school, like that's a little more manageable. So we do go around. I take a little map and where people are registered from and where these schools are that we can visit, and I try to map it out. And so some of those dates, I have like a little star next to it. That's really more of like that's the ideal date, but we kind of shoot something in that week just so we have a little bit of flexibility to when schools can have us in, right? And how that works out. But most of the other days are pretty set. And if we do change a date, we give you weeks and weeks of notice. But again, the fall is all around kind of setting the stage for making this case for innovation and some things to think about and be mindful of before we hop into the winter and the new year and we start exploring some of these actual innovation domains and topics and then seeing them in action before we wrap things up in April. And so all of the dates are there. If you have any questions about any of those, please reach out and let me know. Happy to answer any questions as we kind of wrap up our time here. Would love to have you just respond on this connect, extend, commit. What connected most strongly to your current reality as a school leader based on some of the information you heard, whether it was from the beginning as we talk about why change is important to program specifics? What expanded or shifted your thinking about what is possible in your school? Or what is one next step conversation or question you're going to pursue after hearing kind of the information we provided today? So I'd love to have you pick maybe one of those to share in the chat. And as you are responding to one of those, again, there is the link to the program. I plan on sending a follow-up or little recap of our time together today. You can register directly on the MASSP website if you're interested. If you have questions and you want me to handle registration for you, if you're interested, I'm happy to do that as well. I would really encourage you to find somebody else, whether it's from your district or building or a neighboring building or district. I think Frank would tell you that some of the best times that he had was either on his way to or from some of these site visits and some of these trainings where you just got another person to kind of debrief and share kind of what was circling in your mind. So if you have somebody that is near your part of the world that wants to do this program with you, I think that's a great opportunity just to have another thought partner that you can experience this with. So I would love to have you share this or forward my email on to anybody that you think might be a great fit or might be interested. If you have some like-minded people in your own, PLNs, would love to have them join as well. Otherwise, we're going to get you out about 15 minutes early today. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Tova, so much for hopping on as well. Any questions, reach out. I hope everybody has a great start of the year. I know some of you are starting earlier than others, but I'm sure you're all back getting prepared and ready for staff and students to return. So best of luck. Have a great school year. Hopefully we'll see you in the ILN. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.